Welcome to lesson 27. Last time I kind of messed up the numbers a little bit, but we're on a flow again now. We talked about making ornaments, and to do that we needed a customized tool. So last lesson we made the tool. So this lesson we're now going to create the complete ornament. Now I've got two versions of what we could do, and I'm going to take the more complex version and set it aside. And we're just going to do this simpler version. So it consists of three components: a hollowed out redwood disc, and a finial that'll fasten both into the bottom and into the top with a little wire hooked through it. So what we're going to do is go through the process of making this. Well, the first thing we're going to do is make this hollow disc. So let's set these things aside for a second. And we're going to use a piece of redwood burl. Later we'll be using a piece of ebony finial material and doing that. So I've already put a tenon on this, and we're going to put it into the 4-jaw chuck like this. Generally I make it long enough I can cut 2 or 3 of these pieces at the same time. It's always kind of nice to be able to make multiples. So to do this, we're going to need a number of tools. First of all, my old roughing gouge, which is a converted deep fluted gouge. For shaping, a normal shallow fluted gouge. I'm going to have to do a little bit of skew work, and definitely on the finial I'll do a lot of skew work, and we'll use this skew. And I'm going to have to make a tenon, and I'm going to use the wider parting tool to create the majority of the tenon, the thinner parting tool to take things apart, and the tool we made last week for doing the hollowing. So this is a series of tools that we're going to be employing. In addition to that, of course, I'm going to have to put a hole through it, so I have a Jacob's chuck already set with a 3/8 bit, which is the one we're going to end up using in a while. So let me put these out of the way. Clear up our working area here just a little bit. And we're ready to go to work. So what I have here is a tailstock with a live center in it, which I will use later for the finial portion. I don't need it right now for this portion. So small tool rest, speed 1500-1600 seems to be okay. Now I'm using redwood burl. Redwood burl is a fairly soft wood, and as a soft wood it's going to hollow very, very easily. So what I'm going to do is create half of my curve here, start the back half a little bit, and I'm going to do as much of the back as I possibly can before I have to part off, because if I can complete this side and get it sanded and everything before I part off, it'll make it a lot simpler for the next stage of getting this cleaned up. So let's turn this thing and see where we go. It's running pretty true, so basically I'm just going to start shaping my a little shallower than that. Pretty good. So I have kind of half of the piece shaped, roughly. A little shear scrape to clean up the surface. I'm going to take some off the back right now, and this tool's not going to fit down in there, so we're going to go to our shallow fluted gouge. Complete the curve on the back side. Just creating some more working room. I like it a little smaller than that, so A little bit more working room. The more I can take off of the side, the more sanding I can do to complete this side before I actually have to part it off. So let's clean up the back side a little bit more. Redwood out of the way there. Working at creating more room to get this tool in. Okay, that's pretty good shape. Done there. So before I do anything else, I'm going to drill a hole through here. And that means my tailstock comes up. And I'm choosing to do everything with a 3/8 hole. Nice tight fit here. There we go. And for drilling, a little lower speed, maybe around 700 or 800. And I'm going to go all the way through. As I said, redwood burl is awfully soft, so it becomes easy to drill, easy to turn, easy to sand, and with enough finish, a beautiful piece. And also reminiscent of something from California. So I've got a 3/8 hole here. And now what I want to do is hollow out as much of this as I can. And this is where our custom tool comes in. I want to be right on center line. Looks like I'm just a bit low. Still a bit low. Pretty close. Lock tight. And what I'm going to do is come in here. Much self-extracts, and remember, because of this curve, when I hit the bottom of that curve, I'm over here about as far as I need to go. I'm just removing wood to reduce the weight. So let's check it one more time. So the turning's done, other than completing the backside. So what I'm going to do now is do just a little bit of sanding. We'll get the tool rest out of the way. And I'm actually going to start with 180 grit. Pretty soft wood. Because the back side was not as nicely done as the front side, it took a few more strokes of the sandpaper to clear off that back edge. That's 180. 220. And I like the cloth because it conforms to the curve and blends out any little turning errors I might have had. So I'll do the back side, around the edge, to the 400. And lastly, I like to use a little bit of steel wool. At least to what I can reach anyway. So we're a long way from this, because once I part this off, I'm going to have to put 5 to 10 coats of Minwax Wipe On Poly on here to get that gloss that I'm looking for. But I'm going to do that off lathe and just support it on a rod when it dries. So now, part off the back side, and then we're going to have to clean up the rest of the back side. So let's get a thin parting tool. I actually took the handle off this because I didn't need that much length. So now what I'm doing, besides just parting off, I bring that tool around the face of this on the side, and I'm actually doing a little bit of shaping with this at the same time. I'm coming around and trying to complete that curve as best I can. Now I know the hole's 3/8, and I'm a little bit bigger than that, so now I can come back and maybe sand a little bit more down in here. 180. 220. 400. I still can't get in there with the steel wool. That's okay. So let's part it off now, finish it off. I'm going to hold it with my hand, steady my parting tool with my thumb, part off using my left hand. And all I have to clean up is this little area right in here, because I got all of this sanded pretty well done. That's not a bad action. So I've got several options for cleaning this up. One option, get the chips out of here, is literally to come in here with just with my 180 sandpaper and sand this off. Small area, soft wood. There's the 180. There's the 220, 400. And all I'm doing is cleaning up that one little area in there, and that didn't take long at all. And now, with my 4/0 steel wool, I could do this whole back side. And that piece is ready to go to finishing. So there is my little flying saucer redwood disc. And I'm going to decide which side I like down. Probably the more curved side may go down. So this probably is the order in which I'll use it, but I'll decide that later. So that part's done. However, had I had difficulty getting in here and cleaning this up, I could have rechucked it. And a little device I made here, this fits into the jaws, this slides onto here, this is a piece of sandpaper to keep it from slipping around, and these screws on the outside hold rubber bands, which I can pull up over the edge, several different places to hold that down so I have access to working this area here. Fortunately, I didn't need to use that today, but I've always got this in the background in case I do. So, globe is done. Next thing to do is the finial. So we'll set that aside. We're going to take off the chuck and go to a different one. I want smaller jaws. So the fastest way is just to change to a different chuck. And what I'm using for a finial is a piece of ebony that I've cut into something a little over 1/2 inch square. I'm not quite sure what the size is. And I'm going to hold it loosely, bring my chuck over, install my live center. Now this is the one-way live center system, but I actually went onto my lathe and filed this point down to be a little sharper than what normally comes with it, because I would like to hold like that and have as much clearance as possible. So that looks pretty centered in that plane. That looks pretty darn centered, and now I'm going to tighten. Really good. Done. And I'm going to drive this point in, so I'm working between centers. And here's going to be my finial, and this is why the sharp tool rest. So back to my roughing gouge. I'm up to about 2,000 RPM for this one. So this is just roughing out and making it round. Now in the process of roughing this out, knocking off the corners, getting it round, I'm also creating it into a long cone. So from about here down to the very end, this is going to taper down to almost nothing. So as I rough it out, I can make it conical at the same time. How do you taper something? Well, one thing you could do, you could set the tool rest at an angle and follow the tool rest. The other thing you can do is slow your cut down as you move towards the narrower portion. In other words, cut longer at each area. Number three, you could push harder as you get to the narrow area. I don't want to do that. This is going to be pretty small. So I'm doing a little combination of turning the tool rest a little bit and reducing my cutting speed. Now this is round down here, I can tell by the sound. The rest of it is not. Now I'll cut the other way. So until we get this conically shaped and fully round, it's going to be more repetitive cuts. So a little high speed through here maybe. So we've got it conically shaped, but I want to create a shape sort of like this. So from here down to almost the tip, it's slightly coved, very slightly coved. So I'm going to be working here down to, not the end, but up to the almost end. I'm going to do this portion here at the very, very end. So I'm going to kern this down, and it's a lot more repetitive cuts, just like what I've been doing. High speed. So from about here to here, I want to cove this a little bit like that. Now this is not as small as I want quite yet, so I'm going, but the curve is about right. Came out pretty easily this time. At home many times, because of lighting, I'll actually end up using meg eyes, another set of magnifiers on top of these, in order to be able to see closely, especially on the more complicated shapes. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more, and then we'll start cleaning up some things. And all I'm trying to do is make sure this is really smooth in here. And I'm going to still leave this portion. And then I'm going to come up and work on the globe portion, which is going to go to the shallow fluted gouge. I'll finish that off. That's that. Now we need a bead, which is going to go about to here. So that's a bead. Not yet. One side. Other side. Now I want one of those little discs in here. Now I can't do that with this tool. That's a skew chisel cut. Almost there. There we go. We got that component. Now I need to flatten out the top a little bit and get it ready to become the end. And that is parting tool to make it flat. Okay, now I need to clean back up in here. This is not clean in here. There we go. That looks good. I'm going to do some sanding before I do any more. Lighting working with ebony is really, really important. At home I have some really bright lights over the lathe. That helps a lot. And in here I can get much of this. And the back side, sorry, I'm going to block the camera view a second here. I want to get this bottom of that. And then here, little disc. The top. Ooh, it feels like there's a spot in there that may not have been fully round. Let's stop and take a look. Yo, little tiny spot. I didn't quite get it round, so that's okay. We can fix that in no time. What tool would I like? Where's my, there it is, my parting tool. Let's see if that got it. Yeah, there just was a little tiny flap. So let's go back to our sandpaper. 180 again. It's a little too much paper. I know, still haven't done the tip. 180, 220. Little thread on here that could catch. Begin to shine a little bit, but it won't shine until I get the steel wool on there. Okay. Here comes the magic. Steel wool and ebony work really well together. So we got the shine. Turn it off so you can see it. It's not a bad shine. So I'm going to work on the tip now. And what I'm going to do is take my skew chisel and shape this tip. Let's figure what I want to do here. Okay. That's gone, so now it's support with your finger. Cut on the top. And the end has to go away because it's got a little hole in here from the live center. Shaping the top side of this. Oops, that was bad. That looks okay. All right. Back to our sandpaper. Go to 180. I came up here on the shaft a little bit too, so I need to sand this again. .220. I picked up the piece that still had the numbers on it so I could tell. And hopefully without catching a piece of steel wool. Now if I used a little polish on here, a little bit of plastics polish, or something like triple E, I can bring up the shine even a little bit more, but that's just a matter of polishing. So let's finish it off on the top end. I need to create a tenon that fits into this hole. That means I need a tenon that's 3/8 inch in diameter. There's my 3/8. And I'm going to use this, not that tool, large parting tool. Now I know that's a lot longer than needed, but you'll see why in a minute. Getting close. There we go. So there's my 3/8 tenon. And I need to do one more thing. I'm going to use my small parting tool. I'm going to undercut this top portion here a little bit, holding the tool at an angle. The reason is it's going to fit against something round, and I want that edge to touch perfectly. So now we're going to part it off, and this takes care of the bottom portion. I only need about 1/8 of an inch here. That portion is done. But I now have to make this piece that goes into the top. That's why I have this extra tenon on here. So now look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to loosen this. I'm literally going to turn it around and grab it by that protrusion. And there's my chucking for the other side. Now, because I haven't turned that round yet, I'm going to put that down here where I can remember it this time. I'm going to bring the tailstock up again, simply for support, until I've got this round. And I can round this with almost any tool, but I'll go back to the same tool I used before. Okay, I need about 1/3 of that. So I'll cut off what I don't need. Maybe that's another project of some sort. So now let's shape this into the top. Any shape will do. I don't want this too long. Nice dome works fine. Now I have to put a hole in there to attach my wire to. So this comes out. This starter drill goes in. Because it's a rounded surface, I need a stubby in here just simply to create a starting spot for a little 1/16 inch drill that I'm going to use next. And that's all I need, just that much. But now when I put the 1/16 inch drill in, it will easily center. So this guy goes away. And I have found a 1/16 inch drill bit just exactly the right size to accommodate the wires that we're going to put in a minute. And with small bits, it's important that we actually get it centered properly in the chuck. Slower speed. That doesn't look centered. There we go, that's better. Is that better? Okay. I'm going to go all the way through. A little sanding here, polishing. And this piece will be done. I'm just going to hit it with steel wool for a second here, but you understand about sanding and polishing. And so I now have all the components. I didn't lose the key this time. I thought I did. And I have the hole in here so I can put my hanging wire in. So now I have to go and do some assembly. Basically, all I'm going to do is to take the globe that I made, finish it. After it's done, cement that piece in, whichever side, maybe this side. Maybe that side looks better, who knows. And then the little piece gets cemented in this side, but I put a wire through it first. And what I have done is gone and picked up a wire that is used for floral design, very thin. I'll take a loop, stick it through the hole, bend it over on the back side and put a drop of CA glue on it. The idea of that is so that it won't pull out. CA glue and ebony, not necessarily the best compatible components, but with it bent over and it locked in from the back side, it'll be just fine. So we basically have the components. We've got finishing work to do. Trust me that it's moving into fall now when we're making this video, and the weather's getting cooler, humidity is going up, and instead of getting maybe 2 coats of finish on per day, I'm down to 1 coat. So I'm looking at about a week of time to get this so it looks like that other piece. At which time, a little epoxy and the 3 parts go together, and we have this. So, making ornaments, you can make them a round globe if you want to. That's up to you. You can shape your finial any way you want, but requiring delicate cuts, patience, and light touch and high speed, and you'll eventually get the ornaments that become a lifetime gift to family and friends. So I hope this has been fun to watch. Next video, we're going to do something entirely different, back to some machine tool sort of things. I think we're going to take a Jacob's chuck apart and show you how they work. See you in the next video.